Hello everyone, my name is Anna Rensch and I'm a PhD candidate at the University of Guelph. Today I would like to talk about how brooding compartment design affects the physical navigation skills of laying hen chicks. Bird development is influenced by both genetic and environmental factors. In order to get hens with the appropriate spatial navigation skills, they need to be raised with the appropriate spatial stimulation. From literature, we know that chicks need to learn specific spatial skills within the first few weeks of life. For example, rearing without perches negatively impacts vertical navigation skills. And aviary-reared birds show more accuracy in long flights and jumps and higher motivation to reach higher levels compared to floor or cage-reared birds. In recent years, the importance of the rearing environment has been stressed more and more. It is generally accepted that a closer match between rearing and adult environment is better, meaning that a hen living in an aviary should also have been reared in an aviary. Special consideration should be given to the first few weeks of rearing during what we call the brooding phase. In pullet aviaries, chicks are confined within a brooding compartment during the first few weeks for manageability and their own safety. When the brooding phase ends, the systems are opened up, giving pullets free run of a litter area and multiple tiers. The design of pullet aviaries is very variable with little to no guidelines. Generally speaking, rearing aviary design can be grouped into three distinct styles. In the three different styles, the brooding compartment especially differs in space and complexity, and it is this difference that we are interested in today. We were asking how the environmental complexity, especially during the first few weeks of life, and pullet genetic strain affects spatial navigation skills of pullets. Our hypothesis is that the environmental complexity during the brooding phase dictates space use opportunities, which will in turn affect development of spatial navigation in laying hen pullets. We predicted that a more complex rearing environment during the first few weeks of life results in pullets with improved navigation skills. We also expected to see strain differences and maybe even different responses to the rearing styles between the different genetic strains. To answer our question, we raised 4 flocks of laying hen pullets in 3 different rearing aviaries as well as conventional cages. The 2 genetic strains used in the study were the white-feathered Lohmann-selected Leghorn Light and the brown-feathered Lohmann Brown Light. Both strains are frequently being used in commercial egg production. We confined chicks in the brooding compartments for the first 6 weeks, where they experienced the different levels of complexity. Here you see a side view of an aviary, a picture of the brooding compartment after chick placement, and a photo of the free run phase. Aviary Style 1 offers the least spatial complexity, where during the brooding phase, chicks are confined within cages with 2 perches, as you can see in the middle photo. Once open, the free run phase offers access to a litter area and multiple tiers. Aviary Style 2 offers a bit more complexity during the brooding phase with an elevated platform and 3 perches in the compartment. Aviary Style 3 has an open concept brooding compartment where chicks can access the whole length of the barn, a swinging platform, and 6 perches. This aviary is the most spacious and complex of the 3. Conventional pullet cages offer minimal complexity. There is no elevated perching structure. As you can see on the right-hand picture, things get pretty tight towards the end of rearing. Bird density in this system was according to the Canadian Code of Practice. At 5 weeks of age, chicks were confronted with a hurdle test to assess their physical navigation skills. Here you can see a bird view of the testing arena with a group of chicks on one side as a social reward and their test bird on the other. The chick had to cross over a hurdle if she wanted social reinstatement. Chicks were tested once with one of 5 possible hurdle difficulties. It was either 30 centimeters tall, 45 centimeters tall with an added ramp, 45 centimeters without the ramp, 60 centimeters with a ramp, or 60 centimeters without a ramp. Each test lasted 2 minutes. Variables measured were the latency to walk after the focal bird was placed in the arena, the number of attempts made at crossing the hurdle, and of course, crossing success. While some of the chicks had prior experience with elevated structures in their rearing condition, ramps were novel for everyone. They offered an easier way to cross the hurdle. With this, we were hoping to see if all groups understood the task at hand and knew what was asked of them. Our data consists of 4 flocks with 2 genetic strains each and 4 rearing treatments. In each replicate, we tested 12 chicks per hurdle difficulty for the aviary rear birds and 6 for the conventional cage chicks. This difference is due to a lower number of birds in conventional cages, as we made an effort to reduce the amount of individuals housed in suboptimal conditions. We ended up with 1,470 observations in our analysis, which was done in R, using linear mixed effect models and generalized linear mixed effect models depending on data distribution. To analyze crossing success, we split the data into 2 groups, one including the 3 plain hurdles and the other the 2 setups with the added ramp. To assess motivation for social reinstatement, we analyzed the latency to walk as well as the persistence to cross with the whole dataset. Here you see the results for crossing success by jumping in the no-ramp tests. The data was analyzed binomial, giving us the odds of success on the y-axis and the different rearing treatments on the x-axis. Brown birds are in red and white birds in blue. Even though the variability was quite high, there was a rearing by strain interaction. In both conventional cage chicks and Avery-style 3 chicks, whites were more successful compared to their brown counterparts, which was an effect that we expected. Within the brown chicks, there was a rearing effect with a trend for Avery-style 1 chicks being more successful than Avery-style 3 chicks. Now this is a bit of a surprise considering that we predicted Avery-style 3 chicks to do best. Here are the results for crossing success in the test including a ramp. Just as a reminder, none of the chicks had seen a ramp before this test. The data was analyzed again binomial with odds of success on the y-axis and rearing treatment on the x-axis. There was no effect of either rearing or strain, which tells us that the addition of a ramp somewhat levels the playing field in this particular task. Persistence was assessed by analyzing the number of crossing attempts here on the y-axis by not only rearing treatment and strain, but also whether or not an individual was successful in the end, with successful birds as circles and unsuccessful ones as triangles. There was a rearing by success interaction as well as a strain by success interaction. There were no differences in successful chicks. Within the unsuccessful chicks, however, we can see that whites performed more crossing attempts than browns, and those from conventional cages performed more than any of the aviary treatments. This tells us that conventional cage chicks are more persistent, especially the white ones. On the y-axis, we see the latency to walk in seconds with a rearing by strain interaction. Brown chicks took longer to start walking than white chicks in all treatments. Conventional cage chicks had shorter latencies than chicks from Avery-style 1 and 3, while Avery-style 3 chicks took longer than any other rearing group. Checking our predictions from the beginning, while rearing condition did affect jumping success, it was not in the direction that we expected. For some reason, Avery-style 3 chicks were less successful. Now why was that? When we look closer, we saw that Avery-style 3 chicks were least persistent and had the longest latency to participate, which suggests lower motivation to complete the task. On the other hand, conventional cage chicks were similarly unsuccessful, but showed the highest motivation by being most persistent and having the shortest latency to participate. Now, you could argue that Avery-style 3 chicks might simply be less active, but other data collected in this study showed evidence for the contrary. So this unexpected direction of the effect is more likely due to a lower motivation for social reinstatement of Avery-style 3 chicks. This begs the question whether they would in fact show the expected success if offered a different reward. We further predicted that there would be a strain difference in success, which we clearly saw, with white chicks being more successful and more motivated. Success rate of white chicks was not affected by rearing condition, while it was for browns, meaning that in fact, yes, we do see a different reaction to the rearing treatments between the 2 genetic strains. And lastly, I would like to add that our ramp condition showed once more how helpful ramps can be in navigating 3-dimensional space. This dataset will be put into context of more physical but also cognitive navigation skills, as well as space use data from all throughout rearing. I appreciate everyone who listened to this talk, and I am happy to answer any question that you might have.